The heart and soul of any company is the values that drive it. That's what you want to associate with, is some company that you can align your own personal values to. It's really, really important. Dr. Shaklee felt very, very strongly that the answers were all there for us, and it was really looking to nature to provide solutions for our health. And human beings were designed to eat 600 different types of plant foods. Well, the average American eats 3 of them: ketchup, French fries, and iceberg lettuce. I mean, that's a terrible, terrible thing. But that's the reality of what's going on today. And that's impacting our health, because nature has a solution, and Dr. Shaklee knew that. And he created this company to look to nature and create those solutions and come up with the answers. And at the same time, it was our job to take care of nature and protect it. So that's a philosophy that's really, really important in understanding what makes Shaklee tick and what makes Shaklee so very special. Now, in 2004, the Consumer Reports published an article called "The Dangerous Supplements" was the title of that magazine, and they listed 12 different ingredients that are used in dietary supplements called the Dirty Dozen. And we're one of the very few companies that never had sold any of those ingredients, because safety is a huge issue for us, and we really want to make sure that we're selling the very, very best products of their kind, but the products that are safe and effective. That's really critical for Shaklee and the products that we offer. Now, I also want to talk about a really important subject, which is the subject of purity. Unfortunately, in our environment today, there are so many chemicals that are all the way throughout our planet and through the air and the soil and the water, you name it, that find their way into natural compounds, into plants. Many, many plants are very highly contaminated with things, even grown in the most pristine conditions, because these chemicals are coming from the air, they're coming from the soil, and they're coming from the water supply all around the world. So we have this rigorous test methodology. And in the United States, Shaklee pioneered some of the highest standards for testing of natural ingredients, because we were finding a lot of stuff was present in these natural products. Now, let me give you an illustration of this. You can be growing, because we're sourcing stuff from all around the world. You can find a field of a crop that's being grown in the most pristine conditions. No added pesticides, no herbicides, nothing being added to it. And we might be looking to harvest the leafy part of the plant that might be growing. Well, if there happens to be a road cutting by about a quarter mile away and a car goes by that happens to have leaded gas, well, guess what? That lead can end up in the leafy part of the plant, and suddenly you have contamination present when you would never think in a million years it could be possible. That's a big, big deal. So when you reach for products, you really have no idea what kind of testing goes into them. So I'm going to give you an illustration of what we're doing that is the highest standard out there for care in looking at natural ingredients. So let me give you the road trip for a raw material as it comes into Shaklee. When we get a raw material into Shaklee and we're screening raw materials, very first thing that happens is we get a specification from a vendor that says it's this particular species of the plant that we're sending you. Well, we don't believe it. Even though we love our suppliers, we want it proved somewhere else. So we send it out to make sure they check and verify that the species is actually accurate to what's being told to us by the vendor. We also do a number of internal tests to make sure that the plant species matches our specification. So those are 2 different checkpoints that happen with the raw material. Then it comes back in after it passes that screening, and then we do this enormous amount of evaluation internally to look at performance and potency, because depending on where the plant is grown, at what time of year, different phytochemicals are created. And we want to make sure that we're always getting the right level of any phytochemical to give you the benefit that we're looking for in our product. So we do that testing. And then, after that screening, we send it outside again to another third-party expert. They're pure, and they've got all of the vital elements of the plant that you're looking for. So let me give you a couple of examples of what makes Shaklee so special. And these are things that you can share. In 1998, one of our most popular herbal products was Panax Ginseng. In the industry, Panax Ginseng was also one of the best-selling products out there. billions of dollars of sales that were happening from Panax Ginseng. For whatever reason in 1998, when we got the raw material in from our supplier, our QA group always looks at the raw materials that are coming in and found the presence of a fungicide called quintazine. That was in the raw material. So our quality control group said, rejected, we're not going to accept this, let's go to other supplier. Well, they went through every single supplier out there looking for Panax ginseng that was clean. The entire supply chain was contaminated with this fungicide. Now, to our knowledge, we're the only company that quit selling Panax ginseng because we couldn't source any clean material. It took us 1.5 years to find any clean material. In the meantime, Panax ginseng products were being sold by all sorts of other people. Now, either they knew two different things. Either they didn't know it was there, or the other choice is maybe they knew it was there and might have just taken the risk to make it available until they found some other choice. We have no idea. The point is that Shaklee really takes the steps and effort to make sure we have the best products of their kind. Now, another example of this involves safflower. And our scientists were looking, safflower is present in a couple of our products, and our scientists knew the phytochemical they were looking for was in the flowering part of the plant. So this orange part, the flower, is where the components were that were active. So our scientists sourced it, identified it, and said this is perfectly pure. There's no contamination present. Then this flower was sent off to an extractor that was making extracts and concentrating the phytochemicals down. That had been doing this for many, many other companies. And when we got the extract in, and you typically wouldn't check this, it was full of lead, because you would assume it was clean material. How did that happen? So our scientists kind of went on a research mission and said, okay, I've got to figure out what happened here. So they went to the extractor and said, we want to watch what you're doing to figure out what's happening here. And the flowers are going down the conveyor, they're being dried, and then these balls are rolling over the tops of them. And our scientists said, what's in these balls? And the balls were made of stainless steel, and they said, what's weighing them down? Well, they were full of lead. The lead was getting into the material. And we were the first and only company that ever brought that up, and they had been using that process for some time. So that's another example of the steps that we take to make sure that our products are the very best. Another example is boswellia, that's also known as frankincense. The active component that you're looking for is the resin that's present in the tree, and you tap it just like a maple tree. That's what you're doing. So we sourced the material and found out it was perfectly clean. When we got the material, it was full of lead. And again, it's one of those completely, how is this possible that this is happening? So our scientists looked at it, they asked what they were using to tap the tree, and they were taking buckets and they were spraying them with talcum powder. And then they were getting the resin. And it turns out that the talcum powder was full of lead, and that's how the lead was getting into the material. These are examples, and there are many, many examples of the things that we do to make sure that our products are the very best products of their kind. Our quality standards are absolutely impeccable. This is one of our heads of quality control who is looking at the specification book that's over 6 inches high for Vital E. We've sold 121 million bottles of Vital E. Every time Vital E is made, in the batches that are made, there are 349 separate quality control tests that take place to make sure that every time you get a Vital E, it's identical and it gives you exactly the efficacious dose that we want to deliver every single time. Now, another example, you hear a lot about the clinical studies that Shaklee has published on our products. There are also studies on ingredients that we never introduce. You don't hear about those, and it's important that you know what they are. One of them is policosanol. Great double-blind placebo-controlled study was done on policosanol, which comes from sugarcane from Cuba. It was a great study. It was looking at the lowering of LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol. So this particular study showed over 8 weeks LDL cholesterol drop. So you're going, this looks like a really promising ingredient. Our scientists said, let's replicate this study, and instead of ending at 8 weeks, let's run it for 12 weeks. So guess what? Week 1 through 8, the study results matched identically. So everything was perfect. You know, it's the same results on our study that showed up in that study. But they ended at 8 weeks. Well, guess what happened? Week 9, 10, 11, 12. cholesterol levels, LDL, the bad cholesterol, was just as high at the end of 12 weeks as it was in week 1. The body actually was creating more cholesterol because of this ingredient. So you can go in the health food store and you will find policosanol being offered for that particular thing. They don't know it, we know it, it doesn't work. So that's the kind of attention to detail to make sure that the products we sell are the very best products of their kind.